Hello, my good students. My name is CPA Ringo Frederick, and I want to take this chance, first of all, to welcome you to this new semester, Semester 3, 2025. And I'll be taking you through advanced financial management through this semester. I'll be the one personally taking you through advanced financial management through the whole of this semester. And our first class today, I want us to do and look at the overview and key areas that we must be very good when it comes to advanced financial management. So, what are we required to cover anytime you are dealing with advanced financial management? Remember, these are one of the compulsory papers that you must always tend to have at any given point in time. Okay? So when looking at advanced financial management, you realize that my business is really about like 9 topics. 9 topics, we are looking at 3 months. So averagely, for us to clear everything in advance and also provide us time to do a revision, we must be clearing at least 4 chapters within a month of 8 sessions. Is it possible? Of course, it's a strategy that we normally tend to use that will always help us to clear this in advance. So what will be the expected first topic that will be expected to cover at this level? Number one, we'll be talking about topic number 1. We have, of course, advanced financial. This is advanced capital budgeting decisions. Advanced capital budgeting decisions. See, so this is our first topic that we will be required, of course, to understand and dissect it inside out. And you'll also realize that this will also be one of the longest topics that we will be having. So what will be expected to cover under advanced capital budgeting decisions will entail matters to do with uncertainty in capital investment decisions, talk about aspect of techniques of handling risks. You have advanced methods of analysis, which will include sensitivity analysis, scenario analysis, talk about impact of financial on investment decision. We'll also be talking about the component to do with certainty equivalent methods. So this is what will be expected, of course, to cover in topic number 1. And Mwalimu is saying that this is one of the longest topics that we'll be having, and also one area that we'll never miss in exams. So we have an asterisk on that. Topic number 2, what will you be expected to cover? This is something so familiar that maybe you might have covered it at your basic level. And in this case, you're really about portfolio theory and analysis. So we have, of course, portfolio theory and analysis. So this is also another key interesting area that you must be able to understand, because at this point is always about risks. And one of the most interesting components that we're going to introduce here will be about component to do with aspect of CAPM, capital asset pricing model, and of course APM, that is arbitrage pricing model. So these are the unique elements that we'll be introducing, but otherwise the concept is just like we did at our basic level. We have, of course, topic number 3. So what will you be expected to understand and cover in topic number 3? Topic 3, we will be expected to understand advanced financing decisions. So we have advanced, of course, financing decisions. So this is what we'll be expected to cover in topic number 3, which will entail the whole bit to do with the capital structure theories. We'll talk about, of course, long-term financing decision. So you'll find that at this point it is not that wide, but very important. See, so you'll find that the topics that I'm marking with an asterisk for the purpose of planning your revisions and as well your studies, make sure that you go with Mwalimu together. Topic number 3 is also a very key important topic that you should never miss at any given point in time. We have topic number 4. What will you be expected to cover in topic number 4? This is a concept to do with mergers and acquisitions. See, we have mergers and acquisition. Mergers and acquisitions. So you'll find that on mergers and acquisitions, again, it is a very interesting topic, because we are looking at the reality of things, how things normally tends to work, of course, in the practical manner. A good example is aspect of we have more so where we are right now. A lot of things are happening, yeah, including in quotes, of course, aspect of probably KCB and equity merging. You see, imagine if KCB and equity merges, what will happen? These are the giants in the industry when it comes to banking. So just have that picture, all they do merge. See, so there's that conversation that is going on, and Mwalimu is saying that these are more practical because these are things that happens with us. You see, these are things that do surrounds us. These are things that do surrounds us. So it will be important, yeah, for us to be able to get to know about that. So, and looking at some of the defensive tactics that maybe you might apply to make sure that you are not acquired if at all you're dealing with hostile takeovers. So topic number 3, I normally have topic number 4 simply because this is more of a very practical topic, and for the purpose of exams also one of the key areas that you'll find many a times it will not miss in your exams. We have, of course, topic number 5, which is corporate restructuring and organization. So we have topic number 5. Topic number 5, you're dealing with corporate restructuring. These are corporate restructuring, of course, and reorganization. Corporate restructuring and reorganization. So again, you realize that these are one important topic that for the purpose of exams, it is very, very key, because at this point we'll be looking at causes of financial distress. We talk about portfolio reconstruction. We have elements to do with maybe models of predicting corporate failures. So all of this you're going to cover in topic number 5. So this is a secret that Mwalimu will share with us. Anytime you are dealing with a topic of advanced financial management, for you to make sure that at least you have rubber stamped your pass at this point. I understand people normally say that FM is slippery, but this is a secret that Mwalimu will want to give us in our first class today. For you to rubber stamp your advanced financial management with a pass, then this is what we need to consider. You see, the first 5 topics, very key and very important. There's no way that you're going to go to that exam paper without you mastering the first 5 topics. They are very important, and I want us to make sure that that one has been penned somewhere, that the first 5 topics in advanced financial management, these are very important topics that you cannot go to exams, of course, without mastering the same. See, so in this case, that should take us to topic number 6. Topic number 6, we'll be talking about what we're referring to as financial risk management. Financial, of course, risk management, financial risk management. These are very important area that you need to be able to understand, because at this point, of course, we'll be dealing with the aspect of foreign currency risk management. In this case, the aspect of hedging. You see, really about the component to do with maybe operation of derivatives. Yes, we know derivatives will never miss in exams, but you'll find that it is not something so complicated. See, and maybe 3 marks, which as at the end of the day they are important because they take you to places you've never seen before. So it is important to consider the same. Now, another key area and interesting area whereby students, I remember one of my students was asking last time, based on the question that you were asked, why was someone going to invest in America and lose the money? So what were they expecting us to do? So you'll find that topic number 7 is always about international financial management. See, this is international financial management. International financial management. It is a key element because we will be able to understand more relating with, of course, aspect to do with financial risk management. But you'll find that whenever we're looking at international financial management, majority is covered, yes, with the aspect of theory, but it is important because you'll find that these 2 topics, in a way, they normally do relate. They normally do relate. See, which will be covering the same. So that should take us to topic number 8, 100% theory. Topic number 8, We talk about real estate finance. We talk about real estate finance. This should be our topic number 8, real estate finance, which is 100% theory. And we have topic number 9 as well, which is also 100% theory, contemporary issues. See, contemporary issues, these are contemporary issues, and of course emerging issues. Yeah. And for information, I believe that you are aware that of course the syllabus was somehow amended during 2024 June 2024. Remember, there were a bit of a review of your syllabus, and whatever that we'll be looking at here, of course, will incorporate some of the items that were majorly included, of course, on the same. So it is important to understand that as you are starting our first class today, important to understand what is expected from us. So by the end of our journey, we'll be expected to have looked at all this, and at that point, of course, we will be expected to stand a chance to do our revision as well before our exams. So the most important fact that we need to understand is basically the strategy. Remember, like the first 5 topics, there is no shortcut. We have to be very perfect on. We realize that topic number 8 and topic number 9, as much as they entail 90% theory, it is not that they are not important, very important. This is like 90% theoretical. See, few elements in this review. Remember, on the review of the syllabus, there were computations which were included in real estate finance, of course, which we'll be looking at it. So these are what we'll be expected to cover. And Dr. Mwalimu will want to guide us as we are preparing to start this semester. You'll find that I'll share with us a strategy which will enable us, of course, to clear all these things in advance. And I'll show you how we'll be doing it. See, so number 1 case, of course, you're going to start with topic number 1. This is how we are going to do our case. We are going to start with topic number 1 because it's among the longest topic. So this will be your number 1. Then we will proceed to topic number 8, which is real estate. We look at the theory part of it and computation part of it. So this will be your number 2. After we are clear with topic number 8, we'll go back. So this will be your number 3. The portfolio theory will be your number 3. Then we go back to mergers and acquisition. This will be our number 4 area to cover. And after we are through with that, we will go back to topic number 3, which will be our number 5. So that after we are through with topic number 5, what we'll be looking at, we are going to jump, of course, into topic number 7, which will be actually this one I'm treating them as same topics. See, 6 and 7 covering them together. So that will be number 6. And finally, as we will be clearing computation, we'll be clearing what? Corporate restructuring and reorganization. So topic number 5 will be our last topic as we are doing these elements. Topic number 5 would be our last topic. So using this strategy, you'll find that it will not only help us to clear everything in advance, but rather it is going to provide us with a good footing when it comes to, of course, understanding the whole concept of advanced financial management. And I'll also require cooperation from us because there are some contents that I'll be sharing. So at this point, it's just a matter of us working together. See, so I'll be expecting us to do as much as we can to ensure that at least we are working together. So you should cooperate. The most beautiful part is that we have a support system, which is our learning management system. You can be taking chance to go through the classes in advance so that even before we jump into a certain concept in class, you'll have already gone through that concept, which is very important and very ideal for us. So this is what we'll be expected to cover. And without wasting time, I want us to jump through topic number 1. Probably if at all there's anyone with a question, definitely you can always tend to raise the question. Can always tend to raise, of course, the question. And the perception that you guys have been having about maybe financial management to be somehow complicated or hard, I want you to raise that mentality completely. Advanced financial management is always about what? Perception. It's always about the strategy, and you'll find that our journey will be very, very easy. Okay. So in our today's segment, starting with topic number one, and looking at topic number one, I want us to start straight with something very basic. In this case, of course, you're looking at the methods that we normally tend to use, and I want us to consider the first component that we normally refer to as what? Certainty equivalent coefficient method. We have this important method, which we're referring to as certainty. Talk about certainty equivalent coefficient method. Certainty equivalent coefficient method. See, coefficient method. This is what I want us, of course, to start with. Certainty equivalent coefficient method. It is a very interesting and also somehow very easy concept to understand. And as I've always said, we start easy as we proceed to probably some of the challenging tasks. See, so EQ is something that maybe you must have come through it, of course, in our past papers. See, you must have come through this concept in our past papers. So what I want us to do simply today is, of course, one simple task that will enable us to be able to understand the whole of this concept much clearer and faster. Okay, because we've said time is our only enemy. Time is our only enemy. Time is our only enemy. So you'll find that at all times, whenever we are dealing with a certainty equivalent method, one thing that we must be able to understand is that these are very key components when it comes to matters to do with capital budgeting decision. One of the main methods that we normally tend to look at. See, so at this point we're looking at these are technique. Under this technique, you'll find that cash flows of a project are assigned a factor. See, cash flows here. We're dealing with the cash flows of a project. Cash flows of a project are assigned a factor. Cash flows of a project are assigned a factor which represents the proportion of net cash flows. Which represents the proportion of net cash flows, which must be realized. So this is a certainty equivalent method, whereby Mwalimu is saying that whenever you're considering this concept, all you're looking at is that under this technique, the cash flows of a project are assigned a factor which represents the proportion of our net cash flows which must be realized. See, for example, when you're looking at a factor, say 0.7, when you are looking at 0.7, simply this means that 70% of the cash flows will be realized. See, 70% of the cash flows will be realized. 70% of the cash flows will be realized. So this is what it will represent. So the whole idea here is that it will take us back to what we did at our basic level. And at this point, probably what Mwalimu will do, Mwalimu will just do a very fast scan on or in relation to the aspect of capital budgeting once that we did in our basic level. See, so a quick scan on what we did in our basic level so that I can bring you, of course, to play. When we are looking at capital budgeting, this is just a quick recap on what we did at our basic level. Remember, we need to understand that we'll be having the aspect of three or two main methods. These are, of course, non-discounting methods. Non-discounting methods. And under non-discounting methods, it is important for us to recall that we were talking about key component of that is payback period. Remember, payback period and the accounting rate of return. accounting rate of return. So this is what we did at our basic level, ARR. See. Then considering the discounting methods here, considering the discounting methods at this point, I am going to remind us of the methods that you're looking at, which included number one, NPV, net present value, talk about internal rate of return. We also talked about profitability index. See, we talked about profitability index. And we also talked about key element here, discounted payback period. If at all I was to take us back on what we did at our basic level. See, so understanding the concept of the payback is where we're looking at the period that you're going to recoup back all our investments. See, looking at the accounting rate of return, simply you just look at, of course, the average, of course, return that I'll be getting from my investments. Looking at the aspect of discounting methods are really about NPV. And at all times, whenever we're looking at NPV, simply just recall that the whole idea here is that you're looking at what? The present value of our cash flows, present value of our cash inflows, of course, minus what? Initial outlay. IRR is simply, of course, the discount rate that will equate our NPV to be equal to 0. The discount rate that will equate NPV to be equal to 0. We talk about, of course, profitability index. That is just a ratio of our present value of cash flows and initial investment. Then the payback period discounted is similar to what we are looking at under the non-discounting, only that here I'll be dealing with discounted cash flows. It is important also to recall that when we are doing all this, one thing will remain common is the aspect of the nature of our cash flows. And the nature of our cash flows can either be two forms. The nature of our cash flows can be aspect of annuity. What about annuity? Annuity is a situation whereby we're having what? Equal cash flows. Where we're having what? Equal cash flows throughout the period. And to determine the annuity component, present value, we should recall the factor that we read about what? Present value, interest factor, annuity, given the rate, a number of years. Where we were determining this by taking 1 minus into 1 plus r, of course, raised power negative n. All of this we divide by what? Divide by r. That is our factor. So, number 2 nature for cash flow, we are about what? Lump sum. So, lump sum can be in two forms. Either we are looking at a certain amount at the end of the period all at once, or simply we are looking at unequal cash flows, periodic unequal cash flows over the period. So this is lump sum. And recall, for us to determine the factor of lump sum, this is easy because all you need to recall is our present value interest factor given our rate number of years, where we were talking about what? 1 plus r raised power negative n. So these are the key elements that will also follow us when we are doing what? Advanced financial management at this level. So it is important for us to recall this factor because they'll be very important in our journey here. They'll be very, very important in our journey. So after flashing back what we did, we come back to what we are looking at here. Certainty equivalent coefficient method. So in analyzing certainty equivalent coefficient method, what will we be required to understand, just as Molimo has mentioned, that we're looking at a technique, under this technique you say that the cash flows of a project are assigned, of course, a factor which represents what? The proportion of net cash flows which must be realized. And I've given you an example where you're looking at, say, if at all I'm given this certainty equivalent factor of 0.7, it simply means that 70% of the cash flows will be achieved. For example, here, a very quick element so that before we jump to our past paper questions, which ideally it will just be the same as what we're having in our past papers, because even though I'm going to give you idealities from our past papers. So look at this example. Consider a 5-year project. Consider a 5-year project. And the first illustration, I'll always want us to put it down to make our work much easier. And also, whenever you're doing a revision for a good follow-up, it is always good to put this one down. So let us have this. For example, consider a 5-year project whose initial outlay is 100,000 shillings. The initial outlay of this project is 100,000 shillings. So consider a 5-year project whose initial outlay is, of course, 100,000 shillings. We're looking at a 5 years project. See. The project is expected to generate the following cash flows. The following cash flow that this project is expected to generate, we're having, of course, our year here, where we talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Our cash flows in this context, cash flows given our value probably in thousands of shillings, our value being in, of course, thousands. So we have it here. Our values in this context, our values are in thousands of shillings. See? We are talking about probably 35, 35, 35, 35, 35, okay? Consider our certainty equivalent coefficient, where in this context, let us look at, say, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.4, and maybe 0.3. These are certainty equivalent coefficient. I know one will ask, Mwalimu, will you always be given certainty equivalent coefficient? Yes, you'll always be given certainty equivalent coefficient. You'll always be given, okay? So once we have this element, what's the next thing that we are supposed to do at this point? The next important element will be for us to solve this part. Required here, looking at our required, number one, we're told compute NPV of the project without adjusting for risks. So compute NPV without adjusting for risk. Without adjusting for risks. This is number one. Number two, in this context, we are asked to compute NPV of the project. Compute NPV of the project, taking into consideration the interest risk. Taking into consideration the interest risk. Taking into consideration the interest risk. The interest risk. Whereby you're given NB there, the cost of capital, NB, you're given cost of capital, you're given a value of course, 10%. Cost of capital, 10%, while the risk-free rate is 8%. Risk-free rate is 10%. Not 10, but 8%. Risk-free rate is 8%. So this is a question that you are given. You see, whereby, yes, the good examiner hasn't told us, at this point, if at all you're supposed to use certainty equivalent method. But in this case, once you've been directed on certainty equivalent method, that's the first thing that we need to do, we need to consider. That's the first thing that we need to consider. That's the first thing that we need to consider, okay? So let us start our task by doing this. I need us to first of all determine our NPV. Remember, as Mwalimu has guided us in this context, that determination of our NPV will always be very easy, whereby number one, I need to know the type of cash flows that you're dealing with. And remember, we say that we'll always be having only two forms of cash flows: lump sum and annuity. That is what we've agreed. We'll always be having only two forms of cash flows: lump sum and annuity. So based on our understanding on the review that Mwalimu has given us, based on this question, what do you think are our forms of cash flows? Are we having the annuity component or are we having the lump sum component? That's the first thing that I want us to identify. Are we having lump sum component or are we having the annuity component? That's the first thing that we need to identify. Is it a lump sum or is it annuity? If at all you check in our question, the one that Mwalimu has written on our board, do we have lump sum or do we have annuity? Because that will always be the first trick to identify. Like you can see, we have what? Annuity. Because our cash flows are regular. We have equal cash flows over the year. So then I know very well that to determine my NPV, I'll always be talking about present value of our cash inflows. Present value of cash inflows, of course. We're going to deduct what? Initial outlay. And we've identified that my cash inflows in this context, we're dealing with annuity. So that should take us to a point whereby you need to recall how do you normally determine the present value interest factor annuity, given the rate, which is cost of capital 10%, and you're looking at what? 5 years. At that point, straight away, you should recall our formula. 1 minus into 1 plus 0.1 raised to power negative years, which is 5. We're going to divide here by what? We're going to divide here by r, which is 0.1. So that should give us our factor that we're going to use. Because you're the one with your calculators, I want you to determine that for Mwalimu right now. If I told you to determine our factor, what will you be having? You can give Mwalimu that factor very fast. Because you're about 1.1 raised to power negative 5. 1 minus answer divided by 0.1. Mwalimu is getting a value of 3.7908. I don't know your values. But Mwalimu here is getting a value of 3.7908. Confirm if at all is the same value that you're getting. Confirm if at all is the same value that you're getting. And for those who are on the right track with Mwalimu, you can confirm if everything is okay. I want us to have a FM. FM should be something that you should be enjoying doing it, right? Don't be gloomy. Always smile when handling financial management. You know, if you smile, in this case, you're kind of in this case you're making the devil even to be afraid, yeah? Because whatever that is trying for you not to understand, seeing that you're giving a positive attitude, yeah? So always make sure that you smile. Always make sure that you smile. Always make sure that you smile anytime you're handling what? Advanced financial management. So once you've achieved this, what's the next element? Therefore, my NPV, you can all agree that our NPV you're looking at without adjusting for risk, we should be talking about cash flow, which is 35, times 3.7908, which is our factor, less our initial outlay, which you're given how much? You're given 100. Our values, remember, are in thousands. So you'll agree that my NPV will therefore be 35 times 3.7908 minus 100. In this case, confirm if at all you're getting Mwalimu these values of NPV. So the first case, Mwalimu is getting 32.678. I don't know what you're getting. You can confirm the values that you're getting if at all they are almost as what Mwalimu is achieving here. Confirm if at all you're getting the same values. Great. So number one, we are done with it like that. Just like that, we are through with number one. Just like that, we are through with number one. Yeah? Things should always be as simple as this. Understanding the concept right. We proceed to, of course, number two of the question. Number two of the question in this case, this is what we're having. We want now to adjust for risk. We want now to adjust for risk. So, in this case, what are we going to use in this context now? Where I am required to adjust for risk, then we have to use the risk-free rate, 8%. We have to use the risk-free rate of 8% if at all you're given the risk-free rate. Of course, in the event that you're not given the risk-free rate, which is rare, you just use sort of the cost of capital. But where I'm given the risk-free rate, we have to use what? The risk-free rate. So what is the next procedure? Allow me to use this space because I don't want to squeeze my work there, or simply you can just try it here. Yeah, we're having here in this context. Of course, we have 1, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Cash flows now, of course, we have 35, 35, 35, 35, and we have 35. See, whatever values that we do have. The most important element is for us to consider our certainty equivalent coefficient. So, certainty equivalent coefficient, for each element, I'm given 0.9, we have 0.8, we have 0.7, we have 0.4, and we have 0.3. So kindly get this very clearly, my good students. It is at this point that I want you guys to be very tentative. We want to determine our risk-free cash flows. Risk-free cash flows. This is what I want us to determine. Our risk-free cash flows. So how will we determine our risk-free cash flows? In this case, we take our cash flows, we multiply by the certainty equivalent coefficient. Because we've said that in that case, we are looking at factor which represents the proportion of net cash flows which must be realized. So the net cash flows which would be realized in year 1, I'll be having 35 times 0.9, which will give us here what? 31.5. I believe that is what you're getting. Confirm. 31.5. 35 by 0.8, you're getting, of course, 28 here. We're looking at 35 times 0.7, you're getting a value of 24.5. We are considering, of course, another key area here, that is 35 by 0.4, which in this case you're getting 14. And you're having 35 by 0.3, in this case, which you're getting what? 10.5. Guys, you can confirm with what you're getting. Confirm with what you're getting there. So this will clearly tell us that now our cash flows have changed from being annuity or equal to unequal cash flows. You see, our cash flows have literally changed from being equal or regular cash flows to irregular cash flows. See, so this all has changed. So what are we going to do next is to determine our discount factor. And discount factor, we've agreed that anytime I'm dealing with lump sum, remember the aspect of when we flash back, lump sum talk about 1 plus r raised to power negative what? N. So in this case, you can agree that you're about my factor here, which you're using the risk-free rate of 8%. So then we do what? That is 1 plus 0.08 raised to power negative 1. I'm getting, of course, 0.9259. But if I told you you've attended Mr. Ringo's class, you don't need to repeat the formula all through. So if at all I want year 2, what am I going to do? The answer that I have determined, I just divide by 1 plus R. In our case, my R is 8%. So 1.08, 1 plus R. I have 0.8573. Once we've achieved this, what I'll be doing, I'll just be tapping now. I tap equal sign, say tap tap, right? So I'm having 0.7938. We just tap, yeah? We tap again. We get 0.7350. I tap again, I get 0.68, of course, 0.6. So that one will determine our discount factor. So then our present value for cash flows, what will we be having? I need to multiply this case where I'll be talking of 31.5 times 0.9259, which would give us how much? Number one, I'm getting 29.17, 28, that is we take that is 31.5 times 0.9259, okay? We take 28 times 0.8573. Mwalimu is getting here 24.00. 24.5 times 0.7938. Mwalimu is getting here 19.4945. We take 14 times 0.4. Mwalimu is getting 5.6. And lastly, 0.3 times, of course, that is, so you're really about 10.5 times 0.6806. Here, Mwalimu is getting 7.15. I need you guys to confirm if at all we are on the same page with Mwalimu. So once we've achieved that, we need to sum it up to get the total present value. So I'll be having, of course, 29.17 plus 24 plus 19.45 plus 5.6 plus 7.15, which I'm getting 85.37. I need you guys to confirm with Mwalimu. If at all that is what you are getting, all of us together. Yeah, someone is asking Mwalimu to check part year 4. Yeah, let us check year 4. 14 times 0.75, 14 times 0.7350. Thank you. We're getting 10.29. Thank you, meaning that we are following very well. That is very good. 10.29, meaning that we are following very well. So you have 10.29. Thank you for that. So once this has been achieved, of course, the next step would be what? Is to sum up these items of ours. See, so summing it up, we have 29.17 plus 24 plus 19.45 plus 10.29 plus 7.15, which we are getting 90.06. 90.06. What about our initial outlay, my good students? Our initial outlay will still not change. So my initial outlay in this context was still 100. So we have 100 here, meaning that our NPV will therefore be what? My NPV will therefore be 90 minus 100, which will give us 9.94. So that will be our NPV. This will be our net present value. So in this context, what we need to take away is the aspect of how to go about certainty equivalent method. Have it there. Very important. Have it there. Very, very important. Look at it. Take your time. Where you feel you're having a question, make sure you ask. Where you feel you're having a question, just make sure you ask. And Mwalimu will be here, of course. Mwalimu will be here to guide us. Where you feel you're having a question, make sure you ask. Okay, so once that has been done, this is what I want you guys to do for Mwalimu. I want us to check, of course, this paper, which was tested in August. That's all good. August 2022, question 1A. August 2022, question 1A. August 2022, question 1A. See, August 2022, question 1A. I want us to look at that question and see if at all you can be able to achieve it. Today is our first class. Mwalimu won't give us a lot of things. Today is our first class. Mwalimu won't give us a lot of things. So that next class, what you're going to handle, it will also be very interesting because at this point, we will be looking at a very interesting bit, and that will be the concept to do with what? Aspect of scenario analysis. So in our next class, we're going to look at scenario analysis. Remember, of course, probably, I don't know which media you're watching us through, but if at all you're watching us from any media which is not our platform, mDarasa, remember you can always reach us out. For those who are interested to join the classes for this semester, it is Mwalimu here who will be taking us through. So don't forget, you can reach us out on 0708 068 851. I'll also share the timetable when we conduct our classes so that all of us, you must always make sure that we are in our classes. So our classes for advanced, specifically advanced financial management, our classes for advanced financial management, I want you guys to have this in mind. I want you guys to have this in mind. Our classes for advanced financial management will always be having these classes on Monday and Wednesdays. Mondays and Wednesdays, of course, from 8:15 in the evening, 8:15 to 10. Mondays and Wednesdays, 8:15 to 10. So make sure you book with us, and in this case, Mwalimu here will enable you to make sure that advanced financial management has been made very easy. To that point, thank you so much, and see you in our next classes. Bye-bye.